Guys, we may have some good news here. Who still has a bump stock? Not everybody at once now. But first, guys, go check out my friends over at CMMG Rifles. Go to cmmg.com. Check out their Descent. This Descent has an amazing new action that you've got to see to believe it. You want to get your hands on one. It comes in several different calibers and several different colors. Go to their website. You can get anything on their website for 10% off if you use my discount code FTATF. Again, my discount code is FTATF. Use it, get 10% off at cmmg.com. Well, friends, it looks like the Michael Cargill case against the federal government might be gaining some traction right now. Thanks to my friend John Crump and his buddy Flying Rich over there, and I guess my buddy too. Rich, you can be my friend too. John Crump broke this story and shared it with me, and thank you for doing that. In fact, if you want to see an interview with Michael Cargill, the actual plaintiff in the case, go check out John Crump News. He's actually got an interview with Michael on there to discuss in more detail, and of course, they give you more detail in the case. I'm going to give you kind of the meat and potatoes real quick without getting into the gravy. Our inept Attorney General for the United States, Merrick Garland, has pre-filed. On Thursday, they will officially file for what they're calling, and this is a fun word to say, so give me 1 second, a writ of certiorari. Certiorari. Hey, I'm just a redneck country boy from South Louisiana. Easy on these terms, if you will. This is essentially a petition to the Supreme Court to have them hear this case of Michael Cargill versus the federal government. What essentially happened is you had 3 courts that have heard this case so far, federal courts. One was against, one was for, and one was split with an 8-8 ruling. So essentially it's completely split down the middle. You have 3 courts and you still get a split. So that's why the Supreme Court, according to John and others that I've talked to, it's a very strong chance that the Supreme Court will hear this. We know the Supreme Court has always shunned their responsibilities and ran from Second Amendment related topics. In this case, it sounds like they are almost going by default to have to hear this one. Because again, the lower courts are split on this. So this is something that's going to make their way to them. Now, why is this important that this gets struck down? Let me tell you kind of what happened. When all this took place after the 2017 Las Vegas massacre where 59 people were shot with allegedly a bump stock. Remember, we don't know what happened if it was a bump stock or not. They're alleging that, and now the ATF is saying in their own documents that they're not sure that was even used. However, they still did not waste any time with guidance and pushing from Donald Trump as president at the time to ban bump stocks. Now you might be thinking, well, they ban a lot of stuff. Well, they can't ban it like they banned it. What they did is they violated the APA. The APA is the Administration Procedures Act. With this act, you'll remember in the stabilizing brace ruling, for instance, remember that they put it out there for public comment. Remember that? Remember we had, I believe it was 60,000 public comments. Maybe it was more than that. I lose count. Anyway, the public is supposed to have an opportunity to comment on this. The bureaucratic ATF, which is an assigned group of people, not an elected group of people, cannot make law. That's Congress's responsibility. We know Congress is a bunch of cowards and they kick the ball over to the ATF to allow them to do these things. But they have to use the APA in order to do that. They can't simply change a ruling without having that. And again, they can't create law anyway. Well, they outright banned bump stocks by classifying them as machine guns. So technically, they did not create a law because machine guns are already banned without the proper form and paperwork. Obviously, they're not banned, but you have to go through a lot of procedure in order to get a machine gun. They just classified a bump stock, which is stupid. It's an accessory. They classified it as itself as a machine gun. That way, they didn't have to pass a new law. They're saying all we're doing is following the old law. We're just calling a bump stock a machine gun now instead of a bump stock. So they completely circumvented the APA, which in turn banned a product. You can't do that. That's not legal. So that's why this has the traction that it has. Now you might be thinking, well, if it goes to the Supreme Court, there's still a chance that we lose this thing, right? Of course, there's always that chance. But there's a better chance after Bruen. Remember, we have Bruen who sets a whole different precedent for what we're dealing with in a court of law now. And Bruen being in place and being ruled upon like it was, I don't want to say it's going to happen, but it's very, very likely that the federal government loses this one in this case. So if you still got a bump stock, I wouldn't get rid of of it if I were you. Not saying you got one, not saying you're illegal, not saying to do something illegal, but I wouldn't get rid of it. This is still America.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.